I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this U.S. mayoral roundtable, Transforming Our Cities, hosted by Qualcomm as part of the Smart Cities Accelerate 2020 event. Today, we're going to have an opportunity to talk to two amazing leaders on how will the future technology support the transformation of our cities. I'm proud to have not only two of America's greatest mayors, but two men I consider dear friends as well. The mayor of Honolulu, Hawaii, Mayor Kirk Caldwell, and the mayor of Miami, Florida, and second vice president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, Mayor Francis Suarez. So again, before we start, I want to give a great thanks to Qualcomm for their incredible leadership, hosting our U.S. mayoral roundtable, showcasing their incredible commitment to cities all across the country. To our friends at IGNITE, I want to say a huge thank you. This event is a clear example of what's possible when you pull together strong public-private partnerships that work for the benefit of all of our citizens, work to support our cities, work to support our families. So today, we have a global audience. We have people all across the world paying attention to the strength and vitality of America's cities, driving our cities and metro areas, driving GDP for this country right now, even as we work through the new normal as we work our way out of the pandemic. So we all realize that the new normal is going to be different. How do we use future technology to support the transformation of our cities? So if it's okay, let's go ahead and get started. How can cities, and I'll open up and we'll go to our friend Kirk Caldwell. So Mayor Caldwell hosted all of us in Honolulu just a couple of years ago, back when the world was normal. I thank God we had a chance. Thank God we had a chance to be there with you and had an amazing opportunity to actually show some of the technologies, working with folks like IGNITE, showing what was possible in a world that people still don't really get their heads around. How can cities better prepare for the future? And maybe even now, what are the lessons best learned from this pandemic? Kirk, what would you say?
Mayor Benjamin wanted, right now is an example of using technology. Here you are in South Carolina. You got Mayor Suarez down in the most southern state in the United States. And then you got Honolulu, Hawaii, which is also very south of the rest of the country. And yet we're all connected in this room talking about technology and how we can use it to make ourselves better as mayors and better as cities. And I did want to say also, IGNITE has been an incredible partner with the City and County of Honolulu, bringing together both public and private entities, starting with companies like MasterCard and doing our City Smart key card that we're using. 75,000 have now been printed that we're going to be handing out to folks who really need it the most during this pandemic to get basically money in their pockets using CARES money, but accounting for how it's spent and being controlled in how it is expended so that we can help those at the lower end of the economic spectrum. And again, I want to thank Qualcomm for what they're doing. We, through initiatives working with IGNITE and also working with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, have supported the 5G effort. And initially, we were more resistant. And I think working with these different telecommunication companies, we've come up with a way to self-certify as they put up 5G on our streetlights and telephone poles to make them safe, but not create a bureaucratic hurdle that makes it more difficult to roll out 5G throughout our city so that we can be better in terms of broadband and communicating. So these are things that help put a city on the forefront using technology, not the old stove types of government, but new ones, 21st century types of ways to level the playing field and make access available to those who need it the most, the unbanked, the youngest people in our community, those who are struggling to make ends meet, particularly with the pandemic, which has shown where we are not doing a good enough job and how we need to do a better job. And I just want to say thanks, U.S. Conference of Mayors, Qualcomm, and IGNITE for helping us get there.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, I remember being in Honolulu and we were kind of, I'm not sure if we were beta testing but just at the front end. I still have my card that I got now to see 75,000 cards helping really address the kind of the range of issues that families are dealing with, and using digital technology to help give everyone a shot at a well-lived American life. That's pretty amazing. So Mayor Suarez, I know, I mean, obviously you've been just forehead deep in so many innovations there in Miami as well. COVID it's showing a bright light on the digital divide. I mean, some things that a lot of folks weren't paying attention to, you already were. How is this also giving you an opportunity to see what more all of our cities can do in this period of transformation?
A huge honor, as always, to be with you, my good friend and mentor and predecessor, Steve Benjamin, and Mayor Caldwell as well, and enjoyed very much the time in Honolulu when we were there. And really, Mayor Caldwell said it so well and put it so eloquently in terms of some of the things that the cities are doing. But in Miami, as you mentioned, COVID someone said the other day that COVID was like an X-ray that showed us all of our broken bones. And so it really highlights all the areas of need, and it shows the divide in our community to be really more stark. And so for us, one of the things we've been working with IGNITE, and we're thankful to have Qualcomm obviously sponsoring this, is trying to bridge that digital divide by providing Wi-Fi in our community. We know that there are two issues to the digital divide. One is tools, right? Making sure that the children have the kind of technological tools that all other children have so that they can learn at the same pace. And then the second thing is connectivity. If our children are not able to connect at speeds that allow them to use the technology in the same fashion, then they're getting behind. And I think all of us as mayors, Mayor Peduto from Pittsburgh was saying the other day that there's three parties in America. There's Republicans, there's Democrats, and then there's mayors. And I think, as mayors, we're all striving to do the same thing, which is to sort of win that global competition to make our cities more tech friendly, grow our tech ecosystem, because we know that the jobs of today and tomorrow, those that our kids are going to have and that our unborn grandchildren are going to have, are going to be tech-based jobs. Every single industry is becoming more technological. And the faster that a city does it, not just at the macro level, right, at the economic level, but does it at the micro level in terms of the systems that it implements as a city, from e-plan, which we do electronic plans now, to e-start, to now looking at a concept of virtual government, where people can, instead of having to come to a physical location, they can actually, do what we're doing now, have Zoom meetings with members of our staff and get things done and get things accomplished. It creates a tremendous amount of efficiency. And it also empowers our community to basically be able to have and hold the jobs of today and tomorrow.
So with that, it sounds like we've recognized that COVID has lifted all about these weaknesses to the surface. Post-COVID, sort of the lessons learned piece. Is it fair to say that in cities, and I'm asking actually all three of you, in cities around the country, around the world, have recognized that the disconnect that we've seen, that 30-40% of disconnect, has to be connected in order to avoid any additional problems in the future? Because right now we're relying on connectivity to learn, for healthcare, work, and when you don't have it, you can't do it. So with lessons learned, would we say that in order to avoid this type of devastation, certain things have to be in place? Connectivity, 5G will lead that, municipal broadband, using it like a utility. Is it fair to say that that has to happen to avoid some of these moving forward? Mayor Benjamin?
Well, first of all, George, I'm Oprah, okay, not you, okay? I'm Oprah. Oprah, Phil Donahue, that's my job, okay, not you. So you can't put me in the hot seat to answer questions, but you're 100% right. We talk about COVID because obviously we have an economic crisis caused by a public health crisis. We have an educational crisis caused by a public health crisis. And obviously all the issues that existed in the old normal, we had some major liabilities there. So this is just a unique opportunity to address just the incredible myriad of issues that are facing us as it relates to social justice, economic equity, educational equity. I mean, this is a really, really amazing opportunity that I think now have folks completely rethinking about what infrastructure actually means as it relates to broadband and Wi-Fi access. I mean, obviously, we're thankful for the partnership with IGNITE as well, and I think I'm just glad to be in this bowl of creativity that NLC and IGNITE Cities and Qualcomm and others, that we're really just thinking about ways that we can move forward together. But the simple answer to your question is yes. I don't know, because obviously I usually have my flags behind me. I'm actually currently in my home right now. Usually I'm in the piano room. People think I'm at City Hall. My kids kick me out as they're working on piano right now. But every single family in America should have that same luxury, that same opportunity. If it's to get medical attention, if it's to get access to high quality educational services, if it's to get financial advice, or just have an opportunity to innovate and iterate with your peers and figure out how to do things better. And so many families just don't have that. And I think this opportunity that this crisis has created for us has laid bare, as Francis said earlier, this X-ray that we got a lot of broken bones, and now we have a unique opportunity with thoughtful public-private partnerships. And I think that's so key, recognizing there's so much capital on the sidelines waiting to get in, if in fact we find ways to innovate. But we have to recognize that these have to be public-private partnerships, things that benefit the collective, that benefit our citizens in ways, including those who may not have the resources yet to come out of pocket for these things. If we're smart and we're thinking about ways in which we can really make everyone wealthier, then yeah, I mean, it's obvious that these types of partnerships that Qualcomm and NLC are helping us discuss today, along with IGNITE, that this is what we need to be focusing on.
Amazing. I'm going to give it back to you, Oprah.
That's all right. So guys, so I am curious. You know, obviously we're talking about some of the things that might be obvious to us now, because we are literally on the front lines of at least 3 different crises right now. You know, the coronavirus and the economic crises, educational crises, social justice crises. You know, all the above. You know, so not very long from now, we'll have a new executive branch of government. You know, we don't know what things are going to look like in the legislative branch, but there'll be some opportunities for just looking forward. And I wonder if you guys are giving some additional thought to maybe what are other things we could be doing, you know, around transportation, not just education, city services. Are there any other innovations that might be top of mind for you right now?
Mayor Benjamin, I'll take a crack at it. I was actually listening to Mayor Suarez, and I like his X-ray and broken bones analogy. You know, I was looking at the palm trees behind him and seeing a little bit of wind blowing, and we know there's hurricanes approach Florida on a regular basis. In fact, all 3 of us mayors deal with hurricanes in one way or another. And we get together before a hurricane approaches, and we tell our constituents, go out and get your supplies, 14 days of food, get your kit together. You got to count on yourselves in the initial aftermath of a hurricane. But for example, so many people in our communities cannot go out and buy 14 days of food. They live hand to mouth. Every day they go out and buy the food they need for that day. And so using technology, and again, I look at these city key cards or smart cards that we're working with IGNITE. If these cards could be provided to those who need it the most, so when a hurricane is approaching, they can actually go out and buy 14 days of food and depend on themselves and not government, but yet government gave them the ability through technology and a card that allows them to do exactly that. The second thing is, after a hurricane hits and there's damage, how do we get money into people's hands they need it the most, whether it's to buy blue tarps to put on their roofs, whether it's to buy generators for power, whether it's just to buy bottled water. Again, this card could be distributed through Red Cross, through our emergency management folks out to our communities to make sure they have cash in hand through a card that's managed properly and accounted for to help people get back on their feet. We have the pandemic and a vaccine, and good news, Pfizer came out today, or came out with predictions of a vaccine that will work, but it's going to be a while. But climate change is coming no matter what, and will continue to march forward for years to come. And that is the crisis of our time. And how do we use technology? How do we use the internet? How do we use smart city efforts to protect our communities from this changing climate in real time? And I think, again, a key card, city smart card, are ways to do that. But I just throw it out to us because all three of us are dealing, and we're on the front lines of a changing climate.
And I think that's a wonderful point, Mayor Suarez. I think you're the first person who I ever heard use the term, is it dry flooding? What's it called?
Dry day flooding. Dry day flooding.
Dry day flooding when there was no rain, no precipitation, and I mean just the long-term effects of climate change. And obviously, Francis has been a leader on climate on so many different levels. But obviously, the investments we can make going forward on climate issues and mitigation and everything else. You want to talk a little bit about your work there, Mayor?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you. We have water that enters the city in three different directions. It comes in from the bay, it comes from the sky in the form of rain, and it actually comes from underneath because we have a porous subsoil. So we actually have water coming at us from three different angles, which is quite complex. And so, we just dealt with an event called, Hurricane Eta or even Tropical Storm Eta, which challenges us to be the most water resilient city on the planet. In 1992, we had a massive Category 5 hurricane called Hurricane Andrew that devastated much of South Florida. And we challenged ourselves at that time to become the most wind resilient city on the planet. We had, during Andrew, sustained winds in the vicinity of 200 miles an hour. So then once we did that, we updated our codes, and every single building built post Andrew was either built with storm shutters, or more likely, like the windows behind me now, and this is a historic building, they were impact windows, extremely thick windows. So technology in building, which is not something that you normally associate one with the other, helped us become the most wind resilient city on the planet. Now our challenge is to become the most water resilient city on the planet. We've seen a variety of different cities across the world that have grappled with water management issues. And what we're trying to do is put it into place a variety of different solutions, whether it be pumps, whether it be raised seawalls, whether it be urban reservoirs, to manage water in a way that allows us to maintain our quality of life. It's very frustrating for me when we see, for example, Brickell, which is our main financial district, 2 feet underwater. I got a call today from a major developer who owns an 800-unit apartment building, who was frustrated about some of the images. And so I share his frustration. For me, the most basic thing that we can do in an industrialized country like the United States is to have our cities dry and our streets dry. But it is challenging. And when you look at Mother Nature and what Mother Nature can throw at you, you've got, Eta was a 2-foot storm surge. With Irma, we had a 6-foot storm surge. But you look no further than Dorian, which was a couple of years ago, and that hit the Bahama so devastatingly with 18 to 25-foot storm surge, Category 5 winds for 2 consecutive days. So we know that Mother Nature has an incredible power. And as Mayor Caldwell was saying, unfortunately, climate change and adaptation and mitigation are all concepts that are here to stay for our lifetime. We need to do what we can to make sure that we're decarbonizing the environment. We need to make sure that we are using the latest technologies to adapt to climate change. And then, we owe that responsibility not just to our residents, but to future generations that are going to inherit the city, which is why our plan is called Miami Forever. We want to make sure that we have a Miami that's here forever. And then our other brand is we want to make sure we have a Miami that's here for everyone. If I can accomplish those two things, when I leave being mayor, then I will have left with a legacy that will far go beyond my time.
Those are two amazing phrases and characterizations that say a great deal. And two cities in the heart of the Pacific and heart of the Atlantic. Obviously, there are real opportunities that present themselves to us to again seek some real partnerships that help us maintain our quality of life and hopefully use them as opportunities to accelerate what our cities might be able to do. I forgot when I asked that question, Francis, that you were also the former chair of our environment committee at the U.S. Conference of Mayors as well. So
named by you, sir. Named by you.
Yeah, I've forgotten that, and as you were waxing poetic, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot that. But both of you are doing amazing things. I mean, I'm even thinking, Kirk, about some of the issues you're doing around waste, and I mean, obviously, just the uniqueness of being in on an island city. I want us to continue to think about ways that we can potentially look to more partnerships. We all attend a number of different smart city conferences, and I'm curious as we look forward, what are some of the what are some of the things we think we can learn, some of the things we think we can teach, and that will really make these wonderful partnerships like we have with IGNITE and Qualcomm and NLC and others really help produce some fruit down the road. So as we get closer to the end of this, I just want to make sure we leave all ideas on the table. Any other thoughts, Mayor Caldwell?
Well, I didn't want to leave the climate change discussion quite yet. I think it relates to what you're talking about now. You know, we all of us believe in doing more for our communities to address a warming climate. And, you know, we look at things like the Green New Deal that's talked about in the Congress, and there's a cost to being green. And all of us are concerned about the impact on those who can least afford to be green. You know, we all believe in solar energy, solar panels, solar hot water heaters. And for us guys on the call, we can afford to do that. But so many in our communities cannot afford to do it. And so how do we become a more resilient and green community? How do our cities become more green and resilient, but not create a social injustice because those at the lower end of the economic scale can't afford to be green? And so how do we get them to do the things that are necessary? So one, they're not spending more money on electricity, but less money. And so again, I think part of it is using technologies I discussed. The key card could be used also for those who we know are Section 8, for example, folks who could maybe get funding assistance to convert to solar hot water heaters. So instead of just making a goal and just seeing those in the middle class and above hit that goal, help those who really need the help the most and could save the most, but we get money into their hands to actually become greener. And so I think that is something I know we're all talking about it. And I think if we don't address it, it's going to be very hard for mayors, both the future mayors today and those in the future, to really get to the level that we need to get to in terms of being off of fossil fuel for our entire population. Wanted to mention that.
No, absolutely. I know it's incredibly important to both of you, and you've been leaders in the space, and I thank you. You know, some of the most exciting conversations I've been having lately have really just been about expanding broadband and 5G and what it potentially means for our families. And I think a lot of folks are expecting a renewed focus, maybe over the next 6 to 12 months as to what's possible. We all obviously always want the federal government there in partnership with us. But I'm curious about your thoughts around public-private partnerships and how that might help us maybe better serve our citizens. I know certainly here, you know, we run a city well. We watch taxpayers' dollars. We know that Democrats and Republicans and independents always love when you take care of their resources. But our citizens love when we think creatively about ways in which we can again help their quality of life. expansion of 5G and the potential of public-private partnerships. What do you guys think about that, Mayor Suarez and the mayor?
Oh, I'm a big proponent of 5G. I think the best thing that we can do for our community is continue to increase the broadband, right, and the ability to communicate. I mean, everything that we're doing nowadays, as Mayor Caldwell referred to it at the beginning of this Zoom meeting, is technology based. How many times have we been at home right now where we're saying, wait a second, we can't have Zoom going at the same time as we got to manage our bandwidth. I mean, it's crazy. And then when you think about the digital divide that we talked about, and having low cost, high throughput for kids in our community that want to just be able to compete and want to be able to just provide them the resources. There's so much at your fingertips that's available if you're connected. But connection speed is essential, right? It's the difference between somebody having to wait 20 seconds to download a movie and someone having to wait 20 minutes to download a movie. I mean, it's really that changing and altering. And so, and you've seen it now very starkly, not just in the Zoom world that we live in, as Mayor Caldwell so eloquently put it, but also with our children, right? When you see our children who are going to virtual school, my son is still going to virtual school, and you can understand that, as Mayor Caldwell said, I'm blessed. We're blessed. We have the ability to provide the kind of tools to our children that they need to be successful. But that's not always the case in every household in our city. And so I think it's on us, right? It's our responsibility to do what we can, understanding that government can't solve everybody's problems all the time, but to do what we can as leaders and as people who can marshal resources, as conveners, to be able to get the kinds of technological tools, including 5G, as readily available and as inexpensive as possible for those in our community.
Sure. Mayor Caldwell, what do you think?
I wanted to add to what Mayor Suarez said. I as sitting here right now and dealing with the pandemic, the one thing that Mayor Suarez mentioned were his children who are going to school or on, through the internet. I just wish we had more 5G on the island of Oahu than we do today. We're starting to roll it out. We're starting to put things on telephone poles and street lights, but there are so many children on Oahu, particularly in communities of need, that don't have that availability. And for them to use the internet to go to school is really difficult and sometimes impossible. They need to go in certain areas where we have more internet accessibility in order to be online. And it breaks my heart because they're not getting the education they need. There is a gap that's occurring right now. There's a push to get kids back into the classroom, and yet there's a risk when they get back into the classroom. And we need to do more. I wish I would have done more as mayor earlier on in my administration to push more broadband around the island, not just in places like downtown Honolulu or Waikiki, but in communities like Waianae and Waimanalo and the North Shore, where there is real need right now for our children to be able to, in their home, like your children, Mayor Benjamin, maybe going to school online and able to do it as opposed to not going to school at all. And I think technology and 5G is the way we address this in the future.
And I love the fact when both of you, when you answer questions, not just in this context, but obviously I've watched both of you for years, is that you do exactly what George did the very first time we met, is you actually humanize the discussion around infrastructure. The things that normally people think of blocking and tackling and crossing T's and dotting I's, and we recognize the human component of it. And so my advice to folks like our wonderful sponsor, Qualcomm, and others who want to partner with cities, I think it's approaching the mayor and asking her or asking him, what are the 3-4 things that keep you up at night? And the reality is that in the world in which we live right now, technology and the appropriate use of resources, convening the different moving parts that Francis talked about earlier, speaking to the humanity that Kirk just referenced as well, we can figure it out together. the solution in Colombia will be very different than Honolulu and island of Oahu, very different than Miami, but it takes that level of creativity along with the idea that we have to humanize it so we can communicate to our families who they'll see a trench being dug. They have no idea what the trench is for. They know it's messing with their traffic patterns or what have you. But being able to help them understand how this allows them to fully participate in the American economy and really help us see the value of these incredible public-private partnerships that have flourished in Asia and Australia and Canada, all across Europe, and now in parts of Africa and everything else. But we're still striking that balance here in the U.S. It really does help us open that door when we start with the idea of humanizing the discussion. So we're talking about elevating people where they are. So this is exciting. This is exciting. So George, please, George.
Yep. So it is exciting to hear all three mayors talk about humanizing technology. We recognize that connectivity is the great equalizer today, right? So in order to deliver equity equally, we have to be connected. I had a conversation with Qualcomm, which led to these discussions, and they understood why we needed to connect. It wasn't about the shiny box. It was really about the mom and 3 kids underneath. They wanted to see how we build relief, recovery, and how we rebuild. They wanted to make sure that when we talked about connecting, we talked about connecting everyone. I had long discussions with Sanjit from Qualcomm about how we move forward, that if I'm in a street in Honolulu, that if there is a gunshot, that the police could be dispatched by sound, the light would get brighter, the bus would stop moving in that direction, police would know where to go based on data. It would be much more accurate. And all of these things would happen because things were connected. And 5G really allows our next sort of steps to actually become real and getting to their much quicker pace and accelerating it. But it won't happen unless we're working with mayors like you, because you really are in the trenches with people. You're dealing with real time issues, from someone losing their child to someone needing to eat, which most people forget. That is what you're tasked with, to really ensure that people have the ability to move forward and live a good life in your city. And we have to be able to design and develop tools that fix human-based issues. And Mayor Benjamin, it's so important to me that you remember our conversation, and it's so important to me that Mayor Caldwell and Mayor Suarez are so connected to people, and that a company like Qualcomm sees the vision and sees why it's important, and would host an event like this specifically around connecting people. So I'm just always so inspired by this group.
No, absolutely. So George, I'm not sure if we're ready for our transition.
Yes. All right. So I have some great news. Qualcomm has agreed to deliver $15,000 worth of laptops to Brown Girls Code using Windows on Snapdragon. Here's some great footage of the organization and the girls.
There's a sisterhood that is made up of girls ages 8 to 18 from over 17 states and 66 different cities. Brown Girls Code is a national nonprofit organization working to close the gender and diversity gap in technology for young African American and Latina girls. Brown Girls Code is training the next generation by increasing their knowledge and enthusiasm for computer science, information technology, cybersecurity, and other STEAM-related fields. While building confidence and technical awareness, programming includes workshops on coding, cybersecurity, robotics engineering, digital citizenship, design, cyberbullying prevention, as well as the development of entrepreneurial and leadership skills. Even the largest fire starts with a small spark. Our goal is to create a few sparks so that Brown Girl coders will grow to believe that they too are equipped to blaze their own paths in STEAM-related fields. We know that if they can see it, they will believe it.
That was amazing. Thank you, Qualcomm, for your contribution and really supporting these amazing young girls. Mayor Benjamin, take it away.
That is amazing. George and we all know the power of data and showing how these investments matter. I can't wait to see in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years where these young ladies go. I mean, I live in a house full of amazingly talented women who usually tell me that girls rule and boys drool or something like that. But there's a whole new world of opportunity out there if we truly invest in our young women, particularly our girls of color. So exciting times that we live in right now. Obviously, again, I always believe the first question when you walk into a room with the mayor is I usually walk in the room with folks who are selling something or selling an idea, and they tell me what they're selling, but rarely do they say, what's keeping you up at night. So Kirk and Francis, maybe top 2 or 3 issues as we step into this brave new year. What's on your mind?
Well, thank you, Mayor Benjamin, and again, thanks for hosting this. You're better than Oprah. Thank you.
He is better than Oprah.
Sure.
He is better than Oprah.
What keeps me up at night right now is making sure we expend every last dollar of our CARES money before the end of the year. I know we all have CARES money. It's how do we get into the hands of the people who need it the most, whether it be small business or individuals trying to pay their rent or utility bill. Those are the things that have me the most concerned. We've expended about a little over half the money since we got it. We should have spent more of it by now. It took a while to get the programs up and running, particularly the ones around social justice. It just dealing with not-for-profits that don't have the bandwidth, getting them up to the level where they can. We don't want to give up on them, but we need to push this money through. We don't want to give 1 cent back to the United States Department of Treasury. We're hoping that perhaps Congress would extend the deadline. Maybe they will to give us more time, but we can't wait. And so that's my biggest focus as we head into the end of the year. The other one, I don't know about the rest of you, but for a long time, Honolulu did really well on COVID-19. We still probably have one of the lowest levels of positivity of any major cities of about 1 million, but we are going up. In the past couple of weeks, we're doing really well for a while. And so what more do I need to do to deliver a message to our residents? They need to be careful. We can live with COVID-19 and manage the number of cases, but we can't go back to the old way. And there's this drive, because we're human beings, to want to let our guard down. And so that is something I deal with every single day, as I know you mayors do too. With that, I want to say thanks, Mayor Benjamin.
Thank you so much, Mayor Caldwell. Mayor Suarez, what are the top few things on your agenda?
Well, definitely COVID right now, when we see the numbers continuing to grow. As Mayor Caldwell said, we're doing pretty well coming off that summer increase. And we did it because we were able to very slowly open up the economy. And then we also were able to do it because we had a mask mandate, which we were able to find those who didn't wear the masks. And so those 2 things were actually really getting us a tremendous amount of progress from about 3,500 new cases a day down to about 350. We're now somewhere about 1,600 as of yesterday, which is about halfway back up. And that's very scary. And the governor, unfortunately, took away, but he had, up until recently, he had given us a lot of latitude in making decisions that were in the best interest of our community, understanding that every city in the state of Florida is different. Some cities are denser than others. And so we were able to fashion and tailor our remedies to the needs of our city. He took that away from us about 3 weeks ago. And ironically, right when he did that, we started to see, because he opened up all businesses and he discontinued the ability to fine those who were not wearing masks. Those 2 things really took away a lot of the momentum and improvement. We had gotten our census down significantly in the hospitals, and now we're starting to see it climb. We're up by more than 20% since that order was initiated. So my hope is that now that the election is over, that this issue does not become a political issue any longer, and that we're able to really deal with this as a sort of health crisis that it is, an economic crisis that it is. Obviously, the second part to it is the economic part, right? Which is we want to try to find the least obstructive ways to keep people healthy so that our economy can flourish. And that obviously is the trick. And so if we're able to do that, everything else pales by comparison.
Well, thank both of you, and I firmly believe, George, that that this country moving forward and serving, hopefully in many respects, as a beacon light to the rest of the world, is going to be represented in the leadership of men like Kirk Caldwell and Francis Suarez. Again, mayors are the third party. We may be pragmatic, we may be progressive or conservative, but we're pragmatic. We want to solve problems and figure out ways that we can work together to move this country forward together. Mayor Caldwell, my family, my entire family. You remember we brought everyone to Honolulu.
Yes.
Constantly referred to your grace and hosting us there. My oldest wants to go to college in Honolulu. I told it's too far away. I don't know about that, so we can't make it happen. But you're an incredible leader, and we're so thankful for your leadership and you taking time to be with us today. Francis, my brother, I hope and pray that you have trademarked the Miami forever, Miami for everyone, because it's gonna be everywhere, dude. As soon as I get a chance, I think that's strong and representative again of the leadership that we're excited that you're going to be providing to the U.S. Conference of Mayors as we go forward. George, I want to say to you and IGNITE, the work that you've been doing to pull together these public-private partnerships, bringing incredibly global brands like Qualcomm to the table, the strength of the innovation and the leadership, companies of that caliber in partnership with an organization like the National League of Cities and just all the relationships you have. This is truly edifying for America's cities. And if in fact we're going to move forward with the type of bipartisan leadership that helps our families live up to their God-given potential, this is the kind of leadership we're going to need. So I want to say thank you, Kirk. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, George. Thank you to our amazing friends at Qualcomm. If we keep on doing this right, the U.S. Mayoral Roundtable that focuses on transforming our cities and helping build this country and the globe will continue to pay dividends for all of our families. So I want to encourage everyone, stay tuned for our very next virtual U.S. Mayoral Roundtable. We're going to have Mayors Nan Whaley from Dayton and LeVar Stoney from Richmond, Virginia, two dear friends of all four of us, and look forward to their leadership as we again try to define this next era of American leadership from the local level on up. So thank you. God bless you.